And we're in.
Are we in? I
Hello.
cannot see it. Hi.
How you doing?
You're
It's
right.
another high energy intro. I see you've been practicing.
I know. I'm just seeing if I can find it on YouTube. I'm just checking that it's actually there, and I can't see that it is.
Oh, I'm sure it
Uh,
is. I'm certain. I've got very good at this. What episode number is this now?
I think it might be 20.
Number 20. We've been doing this for 20 weeks or more. And yeah, if we're not streaming, I'll be very surprised.
Yeah, we are.
Yeah, we
Oh,
are, because
look,
I
you can
can
hear
hear
it
the
because
echo.
I'm an idiot. Yeah.
So 20 episodes and we still haven't got any more professional, but there you
No.
go. We are not a professional couple. Look at that seg.
Ha!
Uh, yeah. What are we
Smooth.
talking about today, Richard?
Well, it's a bit late because it's my fault. Just various stuff this week. But as it was Valentine's and Ben's incredibly miserable, I wanted to talk about love and the great things
No,
that make the world go round.
no.
But
I
instead, we are talking about the worst couples in
Absolutely.
history.
I think it's a scam. I think love doesn't actually exist. It's a scam. Everybody's lying. It's like a mass psychosis, like Taylor Swift fans. Like
Well, I
everyone's
have
just
to.
possessed by this idea. I don't think it's real.
The girls are going to see Taylor Swift
Yeah,
in
Swifties.
Edinburgh.
It's
That's
weird,
another.
man. It's something I've observed on social media that people will, even if the topic is about like a new restaurant opening in Zaragoza and it's a hamburger bar, somebody will just mention Taylor Swift in the
Taylor
comment.
Swift.
They just like
Yeah.
elbow it into the dialogue, and I've been seeing that again and again. She's just everywhere, absolutely everywhere, and I don't get it because I saw somebody a Swifty. They're called Swifties, right? The fans.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
saw a Swifty defending Taylor Swift to somebody who was slagging her off in the comment section, and they're like, "Oh, she writes her own music. She's a powerful, independent woman." And then somebody else pointed out that her dad bought the record label. That she's not like a rags to riches story. Like she's literally been crafted from birth to fit into the position that she's in, and her lyrics are bloody terrible. Have you listened
Well,
to any of her songs
yeah, I've listened to all of her songs. I'm in a house
on
full of
repeat?
Swifties. I don't. I quite like it. Some of them, and I'm going to tell you now. Our first dance is a Taylor Swift song.
Oh Jesus!
So I don't mean mine and yours, although
All
maybe
right. Oh
I,
man.
I might make you dance with me. Um, yeah, I don't know. I think she's kind of clever. All her songs are about terrible relationships.
Yeah.
She she seems to have had quite a few famous boyfriends. I think one of them, the current one, is an American football player who just won something. My favourite thing about Taylor Swift is that she used to babysit for Double J Jeff Jarrett, former WWF Intercontinental Champion, which means nothing to anyone else, but that's how I justify
Yeah.
paying for Taylor Swift shit. Um,
It's
but yeah,
expensive though, eh?
yeah, she's clever. She's a marketing genius, man.
Oh, her mum
Like
is. Her mum's like a marketing mogul. Her
everything
dad's.
she brings out like six versions of.
Yeah.
And like Millie is the biggest Taylor Swift fan in the world. And actually, it's quite good because when birthdays and Christmas come around, I just know there'll be a different coloured vinyl that I can get her that she hasn't already got. But
Hmm.
then I have to get it from the US. And it's like 100 quid for a record, which makes me sad. But there's worse things, I suppose.
I saw a Theo Von video. He interviewed a guy called Billy Strings,
Oh
who's
yeah, I've been watching that one. Yeah, yeah,
yeah, and he's like he's just like another version of Theo. Like he's like a trailer park
yeah.
dude.
It's quite cool,
And
isn't
and in
he?
the extract that I saw on his Instagram, on Theo's Instagram, he was talking about it's the only time I've ever seen a clip with Theo where Theo doesn't he just shut up. He was just listening to him, which is actually quite. I mean, it's that doesn't happen very often. It means that somebody's saying something very important. But he was explaining like how he come up, and he'd spent like his youth like freezing. He had to sleep in a jacket because it was so cold, and he woke up in the middle of the
Yeah,
night and he
yeah.
could see his dog's breath and all of this stuff. And he was kind of struggling with imposter syndrome because he was like, there's like so many guys that I know in my trailer park that can play guitar. It's like, what's different about me? I feel like I'm like a phony sitting on these heated toilet seats in whatever hotel it was that he was staying in. Yeah, he was just talking about that. And then the first comment was somebody just going, "Yeah, but he's not as good as Taylor Swift." And I was like, what the fuck is this? Why would you even feel the need to say that?" Like, and then all of the thread under that was just an interaction between people defending Taylor Swift and people slagging her off, and it's like, this video is about a completely different person. So I don't know. I feel like there's a bit of hysteria around her. Um, but yeah, as you say, she had some terrible relationships, and we're going to talk about some historical ones because, as I say, love is a scam. It doesn't exist. Everybody's lying, and here's the evidence. Go.
Is it me first?
Yeah.
Okay. I am kicking off with this handsome gentleman who looks a lot like my uncle Bernard, who you will meet at the wedding. He's a single man for probably because he looks like Henry VIII. Uh, so it's Henry VIII.
There he is.
Henry VIII. He was a king of England, King Henry VIII. I didn't realise, but our middle daughter Evie, she is obsessed with Henry VIII, and so she's
Ah.
told me a lot of things about him. Like weirdly obsessed, like more obsessed than she is with Taylor Swift. When she was a little girl, like before I knew her, one Christmas she got a Henry VIII poster for her bedroom
Hmm.
when she was like 5 or something. I think she might have some sort of tism. Um, but yeah, that's him posing quite a substantial stance
Yeah,
he's
look at
got
his
there.
drip.
Yeah, he's
That's a
pretty
that's a
fly for a
a
white
youth
guy.
that's a
Um,
youth term. Drip. He's got
yeah.
serious drip. Can I just, sorry to interrupt your flow,
Hmm.
but can I just make a mention of a Henry VIII fact? You can see there that he has these kind of bands around his legs. Apparently, he had really powerful and quite impressive calves that he was very proud of, and he used to use these bands to accentuate the bulge of his calves. He was very athletic, but he also he was an alcoholic. The reason he became so fat, like in these later photos, paintings of him, uh, you always see him with this big round fat face. It's because he stopped eating. He only drank beer and mead, and he
Good
didn't.
lad.
Yeah, he
Bit
did. He
proper.
didn't. He didn't digest anything. It totally screwed up his stomach and his digestive system. But yeah, before he went downhill, he was quite famous for being a very
Quite a
big.
strapping man.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Anyway,
Well, I
carry on.
mean that's another thing. Like I get I sometimes get gout from my years of drinking, and the girls take the piss and call me Henry VIII.
Yeah.
Um, but also, he had a lot of gout in his later life, and gout is known as the Henry VIII disease because, from what I understand, he ate a lot of rich food and
Mm,
drank a lot. But anyway, that's just a side point. Yeah, so he was King of England, not very long, but I suppose people didn't live that long. 36 years, which when you consider our last queen, she was like the queen for like 270 something years,
exactly.
wasn't she? Something
Yes,
like that.
that's accurate.
Um, yeah, so 36 years didn't seem that long to me. But yeah, he's probably most famous, not for being king, but for his tumultuous romantic life. Um, he's very well known for having 6 wives. He also had several
Mm,
mistresses that he kept on the side, um, and because because of his 6 wives, or as a result of like not wanting to keep one wife, correct me if I'm wrong, but he basically invented divorce, didn't he?
yeah, no, that's
Uh,
right.
so I'm going to go through some of his wives.
Okay,
I've
can
sorry,
I
go on.
can I just ask a question about these ladies on screen? Um,
Hmm.
What happened to the bird in the middle on the bottom row? Like, because all of the other ones have been painted with quite exquisite talent, and then there's just this kind of what's gone
Sort
on?
of,
There's like some kids drawn that. It's not even a
yeah,
famous artist.
I don't know. There must have been a reason. Which one is that? That
I
would be
don't know.
Catherine Howard, I think.
It's the
Yeah,
least
Catherine.
favourite.
Yeah. Well, no, actually. Um, well, yeah. It all gets very complicated. Basically, you can rank them like they're a bit
Let's
like
do it.
Pokemon. But I'm for the purpose of this, I'm going to go in order of how when he married them. So that first one, so top left as you're looking at the screen, is Catherine of Aragon.
Yeah,
Um, she uh,
local
she was
bird.
the yeah, she from you, yeah.
Yeah.
She was the daughter of King Ferdinand and Queen Isabella of
Mm.
Spain, um, and she was quite young when they met, like really young. Like I think she was like 15, which
Mm.
apparently was okay back in those days. Um, so they got married. When did they get married? They got married at
They
some
got married.
point.
Okay.
Yeah,
Yeah.
they got married. Um, and they were trying for kids, back in the day and possibly even today. Uh, uh, Having a son is very important to a monarch. They were actually together for a long time. Um, uh, 23 years.
Hmm.
And she's known to be the only one that he ever truly loved. And that's reflected in the fact that he didn't like cut her head off.
Yeah, he didn't lop her
Uh,
once off
the official term is that she was demoted for bearing no son.
for being
Um,
barren.
yeah, well, no, but she had a child.
Hmm.
Uh, she had multiple pregnancies and several births. The only child to survive was their daughter, who was called Mary, and she was born in 1516. Obviously, Henry wasn't that fussed about having a daughter. I can
Hmm.
understand that. Having three of them myself, they're all shit at football and
Taylor
want to
Swift
go
Swift
to
concerts.
Taylor Swift
Yeah. Yeah.
concerts. Yeah. Um, Sort of by the 1520s, Henry had developed fondness for another lady
Wait,
called
wait, wait.
Anne.
Before you go on, I just have
Mm,
to mention another fact that I know about Catherine of Aragon.
mm-hmm.
She introduced Morris dancing to England.
Bitch.
Yeah, look at her. Boo. Stupid ginger. I didn't think they had redheads in Spain, so I was actually quite surprised to see that she had red hair in that painting. Is her hair red?
Yeah,
Looks like
kind
it.
of.
They had this kind of sword dance. It was Morris dance was originally done with swords instead
Oh,
of
that would make
wooden
it better
sticks.
instead
Yeah,
of
way cooler.
tambourines and sticks. Yeah.
But she brought that to the English court because it reminded her of home and she liked it. And they merged it like they always do with a pagan tradition. So there was like another dance that Morris dancing is connected to, but they kind of made this fusion with the Spanish sword dance and this other pagan dance, and that's what Morris dancing is now.
All
Anyway,
right,
is
Morris dancing expert. The other weird thing about this was Catherine had actually been married to Henry's brother. She was widowed. Henry's brother Arthur, I think, um, and he died. And Henry was like, "I'll have a bit of that." Um, anyway, he sort of met this other bird, Anne Boleyn, and decided he wanted to divorce Catherine.
hmm,
Um, but then the Pope refused. And so Henry divorced Catherine against the will of the Catholic Church, and that's where the Church of England came in,
yeah,
or was created, which I believe was called the Reformation,
yeah,
or the period of the Reformation. So he just set up his own church so he could get divorced. Am I right? Yeah,
yeah,
I think so.
yeah.
Uh,
This some GCSE history going on here. This is great. I love it.
Thanks, man. Well, Evie. But Catherine, she died as a princess and not a queen anymore. So he kept her like around and was kind of nice to her. But yeah, she died later in 1536. But she was doing all right for herself. The next one, Anne Boleyn. She's like quite famous.
I thought you just
She
did Anne Boleyn.
No, that was Catherine of Aragon.
Oh, right, okay.
Sorry, but no. After Catherine came Anne Boleyn. Got married to Henry after that first one. Um, she basically gave birth to the first child, Elizabeth. Wrong sex again.
Oh,
Uh, Henry was hoping for a son,
yeah.
but unfortunately, she got pregnant loads, but sadly, she had a load of sort of stillbirths. And then Henry sort of lost interest. He took a mistress. She didn't like that, um, and basically just like went nuts at him. Rightly so, I feel. And he went, "Hold on, not having this. I'm going to behead you,"
Mm.
which is, yeah, I
Bit of
guess
an
you can get away.
overreaction.
If you can get away with that when you're a king, Ben.
Yeah.
It's frowned upon nowadays. But yeah, he made up a load of charges about her like having an affair with some bloke, um, and yeah, beheaded her. Next, Jane Seymour. Uh, Now she actually had a male heir, but then died immediately. So you got to be gutted.
Wow.
Yeah, there's a lot of pressure. Uh,
Yeah, I'm not
you, you,
surprised. The stress that these women are under, like him, like stomping up and down outside of the room while they're giving birth, just drinking beer, flexing his calves, and then just desperate to know if the child has a penis. Is it the lack of penis that was the downfall of these women's um, careers and lives and heads?
who do we blame?
Patriarchy.
Patriarchy. Yeah. So she gave birth to Edward VI, but then she died due to complications. Henry was a little bit gutted, but not so gutted that he didn't move on really quick to Anne of Cleves, who is
When was
number
that?
four.
Like the next week or?
Yeah, it was like literally a month. Oh no, actually, tell a lie. No, I'm absolutely lying. To be fair to him, he stayed a bachelor officially for 2 years, but he was already banging up within like a month of
It's like
his.
Celebrity Love Island or like
It is. Yeah, it's like
awesome.
but what's that show? Horrible Histories. They should do
Yeah,
that
yeah.
like Love Island. That would be quite good fun. So what's her name? Anna Cleves. This was more of a strategic marriage. Um, she was where was she from? Germany. So and basically Henry wanted to marry a German to like make politics and make that sort of relationship with Germany a bit better. So he did like uh, Henry VIII style Tinder. Uh, he he
Yeah.
sent someone over to Germany and said, "Go and collect a load of portraits of posh women and bring them back, and I'll have a look through and see which one I fancy." So it was basically
Brilliant.
swiping. Um, he saw this picture of old Anne there. I'm not sure if it was that actual picture. Well, she's probably the most normal looking out of all of the images. She looks like she's got the
Is
least
this it
tisms.
bottom left?
Yes, yeah, number
Yeah,
four
that's yeah.
there.
Because the rest of them do look a bit dodgy. Like there's some like DNA issues there.
But when she showed up, when she arrived in England, Henry was shocked that she looked nothing like the painting. He
Ah,
tried to
classic Tinder. Yeah.
Yeah, he tried to stop the wedding, uh, but because like the arrangement had gone so far, they ended up getting married in 1540. Uh, he referred to her as the ugly wife, um, and they were only married for 6 months. And then she accepted a divorce and a generous settlement. So like it was like a proper divorce. She got some money off him and that, which still carries on to this day. Um, but yeah, she lived pretty well off. Referred to herself as the king's sister, and lived to a fairly ripe old age for the time in a little palace, and was pretty happy. Didn't get beheaded. Next, Catherine Howard,
Hmm.
1523 to 1542. Treasured, then executed, as my notes say. Um,
Treasured, then executed. What does that mean?
yeah, so he liked her. He
Right.
liked her a lot. She was, no one really knows, but she was between 17 and 19 when she married Henry. Henry, by this point, was getting on a bit. He was in his fat Elvis stage, not doing
Yeah.
too well. A lot of gout, bit too much drinking. Apparently, wives don't like that,
Hmm.
so I hear. Um, and so he was like all overweight and messed up. Um, but he was dead like happy with he described her as rambunctious, which is a good word that we don't use anymore, isn't it?
Yeah.
He
It
like
just means
gave,
proper horny.
yeah, I think so. Well, yeah, and yeah, I mean, who doesn't like that?
Hmm.
But anyway, he was they were really into each other. It was a very sort of passionate romance. Got married really quick, but then less than a year into the marriage, there were a lot of rumours going around court that she was having an affair, uh, and Henry sort of couldn't prove that she'd been having an affair, but he found enough evidence. The official term is that she'd been promiscuous. So
Hmm.
he gathered enough evidence that she was a bit of a slut,
Yeah.
and for that reason, she was executed at the Tower of London. Uh,
Always clear your browsing history.
yeah, I don't know how he got this evidence. Like, it's pretty easy nowadays. I'd
Under
have thought, yeah,
duress. I mean, if Henry VIII, if he wanted somebody to be a witness, he'd just torture somebody into a confession. I'm pretty sure there's a lot of conspiracies around that, right? It's just he didn't. He just
yeah,
wanted to get married to someone else.
yeah. And then the final one is a lady called Catherine Parr. So remember Catherine Howard? She got executed February 1542. Less than a year later, July 1543, he's married his sixth wife, Catherine Parr.
Hmm.
She was quite an educated woman. She was already a widow, so had been married before. Um, she was quite into. Why can't I ever say this name? Uh, Protestantism. What?
Protestantism, Protestant.
Yes,
Yeah,
that's what I
she
mean.
was a
Yeah,
Protestant.
she liked that religion, which isn't the same as like the old Church of England, is it? I
No.
get confused by religions. There seems to be too many of them for my liking, Ben. Um, but she sort of Henry was fucked by this stage. Just like I imagine he's a bit like Jabba the Hutt, where like they come and feed him,
Yeah,
and he's just
yeah.
laying down. He's got like a little weird dog creature going.
On his shoulder.
Yeah, um,
Sirius Crumb.
yeah. Is that his name? That little
That's
dog creature.
yeah, it's the name of the
Oh,
some
cool.
Star
I
Wars
did not know
facts.
that. I learned.
I suppose that's why she made that decision because I was going to say like if you're getting into a relationship with somebody who has a very public reputation for beheading his wives, like it's not a proposal that you kind of leap at, is it? But
Well, I don't know. There's like five of them before this.
yeah,
It's a.
it's not
It's.
been going well. Like
I'm trying to think of like who the modern day equivalent is. I don't know, but it's yeah, like he's got a history of bad
yeah,
relationships.
the evidence points towards him being the problem at
but
that stage. Like you can't, there's no denying it. So this guy's trouble.
there are suggestions that she knew like just how messed up he was at this point, and she wanted to be queen, which is fair enough. She was again like considerably younger than him,
Hmm.
and she seemed to like sort of take over the running of the royal household and make a lot of decisions. For example, she got two of his old daughters, Mary and Elizabeth, to like um, get back into the royal family, like so they were in line, so they
Hmm.
might have become queen. I think they both did, didn't they? But yeah, she outlived him. He died, and then
Yay.
She lived for a couple of years quite happily without him, and then died herself. Um, but yeah, moral of the story is like don't
Don't get.
marry a king.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean,
Relationships are rubbish. Love is fake. It's a scam. Happy Valentines.
yeah, but like to manage to get six wives, I suppose King Charles he's on his second wife, and he, and his first one sort of died mysteriously. We have
Yeah.
to be careful what we say about that. Um, but yeah, it's a bit mad. I suppose it's a lot of like famous actors and rich people. They have a lot of wives, don't they? Maybe it was
Mm.
a bit like that.
Well, I think part of it is that he could just he was at the time one of the most powerful people in the world, and
Mm.
he could just get away with whatever he wanted. So,
Yeah,
um,
he invented his own religion just to like so he could get divorced and remarried, didn't he?
mm.
Which is pretty hardcore. But yeah, don't marry Henry VIII.
I've got a story, but the information that I was going to present, for some reason, I've copied down a link for Paul the Apostle and the creation of Christianity, which is not that's not what I was expecting it to be. So I don't know what the hell is going on. I was going to talk to you about. Dun, 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 dun. Where is she? Here she is. Who's that?
I don't know because obviously I'm lagging behind again.
Um,
But
well, I'll give you
give me some clues before the image comes up, and I'll try and
um,
guess.
Mexican, uh,
Mm.
communist, um,
Oh, is it that artist with one eyebrow?
famously invented the monobrow through neglect.
Oh
Or
yeah, Frida Summit.
yeah,
Sharon loves her.
that's the
Oh yeah,
one.
there she is.
There
Yeah,
she
I
is.
didn't realise she was married. I thought she was on a different bus route.
No,
But
she was in a
okay,
terrible relationship, which is why we're looking at her now and talking about her.
okay.
She was also married from a very, very young age, which is part of the problem. She was 15, much like Catherine of Aragon. She moved to Paris, and she met this guy who on the right there. That's her husband, or was her husband, Diego Rivera, who was an artist, and basically he groomed her.
Wow.
She had a very interesting life, Frida. I could never pronounce her surname correctly. Carlo, I guess it is. Um, but she was a young, attractive at 15. Man, it's a bit dodgy, isn't it? This is in 1922, and he was 37 and she was 15, and basically they started dating because he was introducing her to the art world, and he had a lot of connections as a quite famous artist himself.
Hmm.
But he kind of trapped her in a relationship through the fact that she was um, physically deformed.
Was
Um,
she?
yeah, she was in a bus accident. She was in a terrible accident. I don't I just think she was on a bus to. I can't remember if it was in Paris or in Mexico, but there was a huge collision, and she shattered her spine, her pelvis, her collarbone, and her ribs, and she was
Oh.
in traction for quite some time. Like she was properly mashed up. Like there's a lot going on there. A lot of bones being healed. And it was during that time that she started painting. That's actually where her talents kind of blossomed from during her recovery. But she lost all of her confidence. She became quite reclusive and uh, suffered for the rest of her life with physical ailments connected to her injuries. She did have a miscarriage. I think they almost had a kid, and then while she was kind of bedridden, he just went off and started screwing loads of other women.
Hmm. That's
Um,
quite mean.
yeah, he was just absolute shit. Actually, I'm not going to go into all of the details, about it, but it was just a really, really horrible relationship where he was exploiting his position and a kind of hold that he had over her because of her lack of confidence in her physical self. And yeah, and he got quite fiercely jealous when her paintings started to take off, and she became uh, more famous than him in the end. In fact, does anyone
Hmm.
even know who Diego Rivera was? Yeah,
No.
probably some people, but she kind of cast a shadow over him in terms of her output. But yeah, there's loads more stuff there because people remember her more as a kind of feminist icon. Um,
Hmm.
but it comes from a place of being in a shitty relationship. I think that makes her
How?
more even more interesting as a person. It makes her even more.
Yeah.
Uh,
How did she escape the relationship?
oh, he died.
Oh, okay. Well, that's good.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, that's good. That's great.
Yeah.
That is. No,
Yeah.
yeah. He died. I can't. I don't know how much of what I'm saying is 100% accurate because, like I said, I'm trying to go off memory because I'm looking at an article about Paul the Apostle and how he started Christianity, and not an article about Frida Kahlo. Uh,
Hmm.
but yeah, there she is. I'm gonna skip on from her. Famous for her monobrow, communism, feminism, and less known for her shitty relationship with that awful man. But what
Mexican Danny DeVito.
exactly? What do you think about the age gap there? 15 and 37 when they met.
Yeah. I mean, yeah. I don't know who else you've got planned, but it does seem to be a thing, doesn't it? Like there's this new Elvis movie just coming out, or it's just out, isn't there? And people seem shocked at uh, the age difference between him and his wife. She was like 15 and he was 25 or something.
Yeah.
It seemed to happen a lot back in the olden days. I mean, yeah, Henry VIII, but I don't know. I certainly wouldn't. Yeah, well, thankfully it's not accepted today. It's fucking illegal. But
Yeah.
I find it
Well,
quite odd.
depends where you
Like,
are.
yeah, yeah. But I find it quite odd. Like, the girls, some of their friends might have a say they're in year nine, but like they might have a boyfriend in sixth form, and I'm like, that's just fucking creepy, isn't it? Like, what's wrong with that, dude? Um, but yeah, I
I
don't know.
think I
Feel
think
not.
age difference doesn't matter later in life. It depends
No.
where you are in terms of maturity. I mean, at 15 and 37, I'd say that a 37-year-old has a clear advantage over a 15-year-old because he's got more experience. He knows more about life. He's an adult, and
Mm,
he can use that to manipulate somebody that's 15 that has not does they're just naive or innocent. It's like and the same. I suppose the same could be said at about 15 and 18. I don't know. I think just stick to your age bracket until you get into your 20s, and then it doesn't
yeah.
matter. It doesn't matter so much. But
Well, I briefly dated a girl who was what was she? Maybe 18 years younger than me. And weirdly, she really liked You've Been Framed, and
hmm.
I made a Jeremy Beadle reference, and she had absolutely no idea who Jeremy Beadle was. Uh, she grew up in Horsforth, where we
Oh
went to
God,
uni, and
Osforth.
I discovered that, and she said, "Oh, wouldn't it have been cool if we'd have met then?" I was
No.
like, "No, it really wouldn't. You'd have been a baby," and I was 18, so that would have been a bit strange. But I think it's probably more about life experience and what you've got in common, as long as it's legal. Uh, but like I couldn't deal with someone who didn't know who Jeremy Beadle was.
I'm going to very quickly slide into one more before you go on to your next one,
Okay, doke.
because in a way it's not related at all. So here we go. There they are. Look at these. Look at these lovers. There's Yokel the Okel the yokel, the slack-jawed yokel from The Simpsons, and his wife. She looks like she could throw a punch. And they are Ray and Faye Copeland. They've almost got the same name. They're made for each other. Um, Basically, they were just a pair of horrendous serial killers that murdered lots and lots of people. And what was interesting for me looking at some of these couples that get into murdering um,
They're
is
just looking for a shared hobby, aren't they?
yeah,
Like,
it's just
some people go line dancing, some people do pottery classes, will behead people and then school fuck them. Can I
exact.
say that?
Yeah,
I just
I
did.
will
Yeah.
look. I keep making these jokes about love being a scam and it not exist. I don't mean it really. But I will give one piece of advice that you do need to have something in common with your significant other, and if murdering is that thing, then you just got to lean into it, and that's what they did. And they basically it started off as a kind of act of convenience because they'd moved from town to town. This is during the Dust Bowl era, the Great Depression in the US, and there were a lot of unemployed people and a lot of people went missing.
Drifters.
Yeah, drifters. A lot of people went missing. It was very easy to commit crime and disappear people in those days. Um, they were 76 and 69 when they were finally arrested, and
Wow.
they went to their farm, to their ranch in Missouri, and they were convicted of 5 murders, but they found just a load of corpses all over the place. What they used to do was, in the olden days, Ray would go and steal cattle, and then he would sell the cattle back to the farmers. So he was a cattle rustler basically, but he was really really bad at it, and he kept getting caught. And also, a lot of farmers, maybe they've got 100 cows, but they do actually know what their cows look like. And if you turn up with somebody's cow and say, "Do you want to buy this cow?" They're like, "Well, that's my
Smart.
cow." Um, so no. He found a better way of doing it, which was to get some of these drifters, these people who are travelling, um, who are usually homeless men. He'd get them to go and steal the cow and take it to market for him for a cut, and that way he wasn't incriminating himself. And then it just it made life easier. Just murder them and bury them on his property. And yeah, they did that for about 20 years. They, in fact, they don't know how many people they killed. Um, they think it could be anything up to 100. Um,
Wow.
and they only confessed to the 5 murders that were. There were 5 missing people that there was a trail that kind of led to that ranch. Um, but to this day, nobody knows how many they killed. So there they are. Look, husband and wife. Oh, and the second that they got arrested, Faye completely threw him under the bus and said, "Yeah, no, he did it. It was him. I had nothing to do with it. I don't. I tried to stop him. I couldn't. It's not my fault."
It
Uh,
is amazing, isn't it? How many couples there are? Like, I think in our serial killers episode we talked. I'm sure I talked about Fred and Rose West,
mm,
didn't I? And
yeah,
then there's Myra Hindley and what was the fella? Ian Brady, was it?
yeah.
Then there's those ones that killed them 2 little girls. He was like school caretaker, and she covered up for him and stuff. Couples, man, couple killers is maybe we should do one on that.
Well,
But
in relation to that, I just want to mention because I started looking into like Natural Born Killers, the film,
mm,
um,
yeah, good.
which is was it Juliette Lewis and
Woody Harrelson.
Woody Harrelson? Yeah. They are not based on specific real life characters. They're kind of like an amalgamation of couple killers throughout the 20th century. And there's an interesting study that they actually call it Bonnie and Clyde syndrome is the street term, but
Yeah.
the medical term or the psychological term is hybristophilia, which is a paraphilia. Um, I know a little bit about paraphilias because I did an article on it years ago. You know, have you ever heard the term paraphilia?
No.
It's when you get like a sexual arousal from something. So you get a sexual arousal from an inanimate object or a sensation, something that you wouldn't. It's not like a reciprocal thing. It's not like you get aroused by a human being. You get aroused by something or
Oh,
an
that
action.
can't
Yeah.
give you
So
anything back. Okay.
yeah. So a lot of the time, paraphilia is like there's people who are attracted to the idea of being furniture. I can't remember the name for that, but that's a specific type of paraphilia. Hybristophilia is sexual
Yeah.
attraction to people who commit crimes, and it's something that
Oh, really?
yeah, it's happened a lot. They first started recording it when um, Ted Bundy was arrested
Yeah, yeah,
because
yeah.
he just started getting loads and loads of letters from women who wanted to marry him, and they were absolutely. And
Yeah.
the same happened with Jeffrey Dahmer, Richard Ramirez, who's the Night Stalker, Charles Manson, um,
Yeah.
and these women and men as well, uh, just got obsessed, overcome by this hybristophilia, this sexual arousal by psychopaths, and they think that that happens a lot inside of these relationships. That's why this other term for that is Bonnie and Clyde syndrome, because they think that Bonnie was well, they used to shoot people and then screw on the the boot of, the bonnet of their car, right? Isn't that what they used to
Right.
do? They used to like
Yeah.
frig each other off or whatever in the crime scene or
Yeah.
some weird shit.
Hmm.
I'm just before you go transition into your next one. I'm just going to drop in some anti-Valentine quotes between. Like, so
Okay.
here's one from Jay Leno. He says, "Today is Valentine's Day, or as men like to call it, Extortion Day." Oh, Jay. God, hey.
I
Screw.
like Valentine's Day.
Here's one from Mae West.
Okay.
"I'm single because I was born that way." Thank you very
Right.
much,
Yeah.
May. All right.
Yeah. She wasn't a looker either, was she, Mae West? Or was she? No.
If love is blind, why is lingerie so popular? Dorothy Parker.
Who's Dorothy
I
Parker?
don't know. She's on this list.
Okay. All right. Give me some more.
Um,
Are these going to be on T-shirts by any
yeah,
chance?
absolutely. This one's from the famous Warsan Shire.
Oh
Uh,
yeah, old
yeah.
Warsan. Yeah.
"I am a lover without a lover. I am lovely and lonely, and I belong deeply to myself." Bloody hell!
That's you, Ben.
That sounds like somebody who gets found with an orange in their mouth, having like hung themselves and wanking. You know that? What do they call
Yeah.
that? That
Auto
fatal wanking accident.
asphyxiation.
Yeah,
Auto
that
asphyxiation.
one.
Oh
That
yeah,
one.
I know that.
Joan Rivers. She's always got good stuff to say.
Oh yeah, I
At
got
my
that.
age, an affair of the heart is a bypass. Ha!
Nice.
Well
Yeah,
done,
she
Joan.
was
Right,
funny.
next.
Okay. So, my next couple, they've written books about. They made a movie about. Uh, Ben, I believe the picture's probably up. Who is that man?
Sid
Sid.
Vicious.
Yes, but not the wrestler Sid Vicious.
No.
Um, but no, Sid Vicious, who was the bass player in a band, a little band called the Sexy
Yeah.
Pistols. Um, so the Sex Pistols, obviously a punk band from London, formed in the 70s. And Sid, yeah, he was the bass player. He liked a bit of crack.
And heroin.
Well, not yet. He didn't.
Oh, okay.
Um, but he liked a bit of crack. He liked various others that were available, so speed and stuff in the 70s. And then along came this lady, who is her name is Nancy.
Courtney Love.
Uh,
Oh no.
yeah, Nancy Spungen. Spungen, yeah,
Yeah,
Spungen.
sponging.
So Nancy was an American lady born in Philadelphia, and she sort of moved from Philadelphia to New York in her early 20s. Um, No, that's a lie. She moved before her early 20s. She actually moved when she was 17. Um, she basically became a groupie for a load of bands.
Hmm.
The term groupie, um, it's been written about in various books, but she said groupies were known sort of for being tall, skinny, blonde model types with fashionable clothes. Um, and Nancy didn't really fit into that. She was once quoted as, "Yeah, I'm a prostitute. So what?" Um, uh, and she followed a few bands around New York, and they were all of that sort of punk genre. She was into I don't know if you'd have ever heard of Johnny Thunders. Do you know
Yeah.
Johnny Thunders? Yeah,
Yeah.
and the Heartbreakers, and yeah, a lot of those that sort of punk scene that was in New York at the time, and eventually sort of heard about this band called the Sex Pistols, and headed over to London to meet them and start following them around. Do you know what Sid's real name was? Uh, no, it was John Simon Ritchie. So he changed that to Sid Vicious. I'm not
Yeah.
really sure why.
Yeah.
Uh,
It's John Simon Ritchie. It's very catchy, isn't it? It's a nice
yeah.
punk name,
Um,
John.
the rest of the band couldn't stand her, so they sort of banned her from the tour. But Sid he quite liked her. She was she was as punk as he was, from what I've read.
Hmm.
Just like totally unapologetic. Unfortunately, Nancy already had a bit of a heroin problem. Um,
Excellent.
she had a big reputation for being, in inverted commas, a junkie. Um, in an article in a New York lifestyle magazine, Malcolm McLaren, who was the manager of the Sex Pistols, said Nancy actually taught Sid all about sex and drugs and rock and roll, and the lifestyle of a New York rocker. Um, so she'd been around a bit. She was a bit older than Sid, and a bit more experienced than Sid. And he kind of felt like she was a bit of a mother figure. When they went out to New York, she knew all the places, she knew all the bands, she knew all the bars, she knew where to get the drugs. Um, Eventually, it sort of just began like a massive downward spiral. In the summer of 1978, they moved into this place, the Chelsea Hotel, which was a really famous hotel in New York where a lot of musicians had stayed. Bob Dylan had stayed there, Jimi Hendrix, Iggy Pop, and then like a lot of the sort of fashionable artists like Andy Warhol and Jackson Pollock, they were sort of hanging out there. Um, and it sort of became pretty apparent to everyone who knew them uh, that their drug use just spiraled out of control as soon as they moved in there. The band weren't touring at the time, so they had like loads of money to spend, and they just got high every single day. Um, and then, unfortunately, in the early hours of October the 12th in 1978, so they'd not even been at this hotel that long, everything went a bit tits up. The night before, a load of people had been around there partying. By now, like Sid was doing a lot of barbiturates, which
Hmm.
what would we call them now? They're probably benzos now,
Yeah.
but they're barbiturates are more of an upper, so it'd be like a sort of speed effect. And apparently, he just had massive like tolerance for them, and could take 30 of them at a time, which would like normally kill everyone
Like
else.
an elephant.
Um, but then he'd like comatose for hours and hours and hours. And during one of these uh, comatose periods, Nancy rang a dealer and asked for this. Well, I, I can't pronounce it, but basically these are opioid painkillers. So a bit like the oxycontins and stuff that are running rife in America now. Um,
Fentanyl.
well, fentanyl is a synthetic opioid,
Hmm.
uh, but like Oxycontin was a natural opioid, a natural opioid. But
Oxycontin or oxytocin?
Oxycontin. Well, I'm saying it's like Oxycontin.
Right.
It's something called uh, Diluidid, which is oddly a drug that I've not heard of, but it's from the 70s, so it's probably
Hmm.
banned now. But yeah, it was an opioid painkiller, a lot like, I don't know, codeine or Oromorph or morphine. It's one of those.
Hmm.
Um, a bit later that morning, uh, other guests heard moaning coming from the room, and eventually someone broke into the room, and Nancy was dead and half naked on the bathroom floor. Now, you'd think simple case of drug overdose, but no, she'd been brutally stabbed in the stomach until she had bled to death.
Hmm.
And pretty quickly, someone found Sid passed out in the bed, and put two and two together because he was covered in blood and that, and he was arrested and charged with her murder. Um, and that sounds like a pretty bad story for a couple already, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, Sid went to jail for a bit. Then he was out on bail. And shortly after his release, he was found dead of a heroin overdose in his new girlfriend's apartment. So he, some say deliberately OD'd, some say accidentally OD'd on actual heroin. Um, was taught that they did like a toxicology report, and um, you know, apparently this was unusually strong heroin, which led to various conspiracies about it was like a revenge killing on
Hmm.
by a drug dealer on Nancy's behalf, or the family of Nancy or Nancy's friends. Some believe that Sid's own dealer, who was also his bodyguard, oddly, uh, that he murdered him because he was in love with Nancy. There's lots of sort of conspiracy theories around it, but I think the message is like two massive drug addicts getting together with a lot of money
Hmm.
and no one to keep them in check is generally a bad idea. Uh, I think you know I've there's various books about this and various theories that um, uh, Sid might have been completely blacked out and just stabbed her without knowing
Hmm.
42 times. But, or it could have just been a massive argument, an argument over drugs. I see that quite a lot in my professional capacity, where people do fall out because someone's got drugs and they want them. And that everyone gets a bit stabby at that point. But yeah, just two addicts living together with no one to sort of keep an eye on them. It's really sad because they were both really young. Sid. I'm not a huge Sex Pistol fans, but I appreciate their importance in the history of popular music. Um, he was a creative guy, and by all accounts, she was pretty creative as well. Um, and two young people dying too early, really. Um, yeah, so that was Sid and Nancy.
Incredibly cheerful. Yeah, I heard another theory that he was passed out in the other room, and it wasn't him; it was the drug dealer that turned up and murdered her. But
Yeah,
yeah,
and I guess if he was so unconscious, it would have been easy to plant evidence on him,
mm.
like cover him in her blood or whatever. Um, yeah, I think you've seen me in various stages of
Yeah,
consciousness,
yeah.
and thankfully, you never set me up for a murder. Um,
No, well,
but you probably could have,
I
or you
couldn't be
tried.
bothered. Too
But
much effort.
yeah. Stag do soon. Who knows? But, yeah, maybe Gem will disappear somehow. I
Oh
don't
yeah,
know.
I might say actually. Don't give me ideas. That's some yeah. I'm going to slide one more in. I'm going to slide into Oscar Wilde, which he would have liked.
Ah,
He's there. There he is. With I don't know if you're familiar with the relationship that caused the whole the I want to say legacy.
Well,
It's not
got
the
him arrested and put in jail forever. And
yeah. Well, this is the first example in modern history of homosexuality being taken into court, and um, they had to kind of build legislation around it because usually it was against the law, but it was
yeah,
more that it was against the law as in public displays of homosexuality were against the law, and
mm,
usually that would come with somebody uh, being reprimanded, or you'd be threatened, or your relatives would do an intervention or whatever. But there'd never really been an example of somebody being taken in front of a judge and going through the court process under the accusation of sodomy, because it was the sodomy that was uh,
actual
the
crime.
actual crime. Yeah, Lord Lord Bosie, Alfred Douglas, or also known as Bosie,
Mm,
was Oscar Wilde, the famous Irish poet's lover, and his partner for a very long time, and it was very much an open secret. I mean, most of his um, friends and family were aware of it. They did the bare minimum to maintain the public appearance of being two straight dudes, just like hanging out together naked. Still, we like to wrestle. We like to wrestle. That's what we do in our free time. Um, Occasionally, something slips into the wrong place, but that's normal. It's part of the wrestling affair. But yeah, he basically set him up. Um, when the accusations were made against Oscar Wilde, um, he turned his back on him, and instead of coming to his defence and helping him through the court case, or denying the fact, he basically threw him under the bus, and
mm,
I think he helped with the prosecution in exchange for being let
pardon.
let off himself, and then
Well,
he later went on to marry and have children. So
mm,
he upheld the I don't want to say charade, but he upheld the intention of being heterosexual for the rest of his life, which um, Oscar Wilde writes about being more heartbreaking and more difficult to deal with than the accusation and the trial itself, was the fact that his partner had basically just kind of abandoned him for a safer and easier life.
yeah.
So yeah,
No, it was a real
very
sad
sad.
story. I remember seeing the film with not Hugh Laurie, Stephen Fry, isn't it?
Yeah, yeah,
And
yeah.
brilliant, brilliant movie. Wasn't Bose's dad like a politician or something, and that really didn't help. And I think certainly in the film it's portrayed that Bosey is sort of sticking it to his dad and sort of flaunting it.
Mm,
I remember a scene where they're out for dinner, and the dad's out for dinner in the same restaurant, and he calls for dad over to sit with them, or he goes and sits with the dad or something. And certainly in the movie, like Bosie was portrayed as a sort of almost sort of rebellious young man who um, was flaunting the fact in front of people, sort of for a shock factor, whereas Oscar Wilde was just like a gay guy who just
yeah,
wanted a happy life. Of course,
yeah,
Oscar Wilde was married as well, wasn't he? And his
yeah.
wife had children, but she always knew apparently that he was a gay man,
They
and
were all at it. Everybody was at it.
sort of
Even Bosie, when the woman that he married to, or we call them a beard, right? It's a beard,
yeah,
isn't
yeah, yeah.
it? The beard that he married to disguise his homosexuality um, was a woman called Olive Custance, and she was a bisexual heiress and poet. So she was on the game as well. They were all at it. It was just this whole game of keeping up appearances, or to satisfy the stiff upper-lipped heterosexual public. Um, but the fact is, there are a lot of people engaging in relationships, and it was just a thin veil to cover up the public persona. It's quite sad, really. Um,
Yeah, it was that era of Bohemia, wasn't it, where like a lot of stuff was just sort of going on, like open relationships, freedom sexually, and all that kind of thing. And I think a lot of people sort of fell into it, possibly unwillingly. Like I think Oscar Wilde's wife became involved and she wasn't happy about it, but also she loved Oscar Wilde very much and accepted him for who he was. Um, I just think it's really sad, man, because he ended up going to jail and getting like hard labour, and
yeah, yeah,
obviously he'd been this quite well-to-do guy, and I think he got like 2 years hard labour, and he was on like some island somewhere, and it destroyed him. It like
yeah.
really shortened his life.
They made an example of him because they wanted to crush uh, this image of dandies and like the homosexual upper class. It was a bad image when image and class were still relevant. Um,
Mm,
so they kind of threw the book at him, and yeah, like you say, he was absolutely destroyed him, as it would anybody. But I think specifically coming from a certain lifestyle and being thrust into like a grimy labour camp.
yeah,
Uh,
and he died a pauper. He was
yeah.
exiled. He was exiled from the UK, and I think he had to go and live in France. Maybe
Well,
had to go and live in France, but I think he died like in a matter of a couple of years after
mm,
being released from prison. Like it just fucked him up
yeah,
because I mean, hard labour's hard labour for anyone, I guess. But coming from being a playwright and a bit of a dandy, I'd spent like smashing rocks for 2 years straight.
yeah.
Isn't going to do you any good, is it?
But in addition, like he's all of his nobody was allowed to communicate with him because he became like infected. Like it was like, because it was all about appearances. Um, anyone who was kind of conversing with him would be. It's weird, isn't it? It's just like it's like communism,
Mm,
McCarthyism. Like if it's guilt by association. Um, so it's one thing being sent to a camp and being prosecuted for your lifestyle, but to have all of your friends and family turn their backs on you at the same time is, I think that's psychologically what kind of shortened his life more than anything else. Yeah,
mm.
terribly sad story of Oscar Wilde, but there's a few of those in British culture. The same goes for what's your man's name? The chap, uh, the fella, that fella. I'm talking about the code breaker from the Second World War that was
Yeah.
chemically
Uh,
castrated.
uh,
Uh, I can't remember his name now. We're
I
both just gonna
watched a
make.
movie the other day with Emble. No, not Engelbert Humperdinck. Benedict,
What?
Benedict Cumberbatch.
Yeah,
What's his bloody
I
name?
can't remember now. Oh, it's
I'm
completely
gonna have
slipped
to
my
look.
mind. But
Yeah, he was another guy, wasn't he? Like he had done amazing things with
he
Castrian.
invented computer technology. Like what he did was absolutely incredible. He did.
Alan Turing.
That's the one. He did so much for the military and for the country and for science and for advancing our technology in so many different areas. And then they just fucking they threw him under the bus.
Yeah,
Chemical castration. Those were he was given that as his choice. It was either chemical castration or I think the
Dale.
alternative was jail for life.
Yeah,
Um, chemical
so
castration.
sad.
Yeah, but that's how the system will force you into a shape. Uh, because that's the worst relationship of all. There you go. If we will terminate with that. is the relationship between the citizen and the state. It's the most toxic relationship that exists, and I recommend detaching it. Get a divorce, detach yourself from it, go and live in the woods, get some solar panels, grow your own
Yeah,
food, go and
yeah.
live in Asturias next door to our friend James. He'll hate that, and it'll be hilarious.
Everyone move there.
Everyone just turn up.
Yeah. Well, I quite enjoy that show. I love love. I'm very much in love. I enjoyed Valentine's Day. We did something that would make you sick. We not that. We got one of them plaster of Paris mold things where you hold hands and then like pour plaster into it, and now we've got our hands clasped together as a little statue. I can hear you vomiting in your mouth a little bit. Yeah, and we wrote each other nice cards. Sharon got me a very nice present, which I'm very appreciative of.
Yeah.
I got her a haircut, which I don't know. And yeah, I enjoy it. And yeah, I think one day you will too, mate. And
Hey, we do talk about it like I've never been in a relationship before.
no, I'm just saying you're not enjoying it every minute, Valentine's Day, but you will do.
I've
Like,
not been. I'm not a virgin. I've been single my entire life. Fucking hell! It's
I'm
just like I'm
sorry.
some kind of like bits falling off me, like I'm some kind of
And I
pauper.
happen to know you are a very romantic man. Um, can I mention a certain poem that I was sent the other day?
What poem's that? Did I send you a poem?
Yeah, well, the last bit rhymes, I think. Can I read it?
Yeah, go on then. What is it? I don't even know what it is.
Sat on a rock in a field, a tub of ice cream falls in my cupped hands.
Oh yeah, I found that in a book. Do you know what that's about? Did I don't know if I should explain that.
Can I finish the poem and
Yeah,
then you
go on
can
then.
explain? Is it a poem? I mean, it sort of rhymes.
I don't think it's a
Uh,
poem. I think I was
a
just
tub
I
of
was
ice
just
cream falls in my cupped hands.
yeah.
There's a man in a house behind the hedgerow that wants to kill me. If I can get past him, there's a chance, a good chance, I'll get my hand down his daughter's pants.
That's a true story.
I love
That's
that.
yeah. That was about my first girlfriend. I went over. I went to the supermarket and bought this tub of ice cream, and I was just sat in a. I had to go across a field to. She lived in a village, and I had to go out of the town to get to the village. I was on foot, and I was just sitting in this field like super nervous because she was like, "Oh, my dad might be in." I was like, "Oh," I was like 14, 15, I can't remember. And yeah, lo and behold, like he answered the door. I think I've told you about this on another episode. And he just gave me this finger-crushing handshake. He's like, "Hello, Benjamin, I presume." Like super formal. It's like, bloody hell, mate! It's not the 1930s. Um, and then I went upstairs and fingered his daughter. So you know, you can't tell me that there isn't romance in my heart because it's not true.
No, it's
It's
been proven.
brimming with it. Um, but yeah, no, I was. To be fair to me, I was in that relationship for 14 years,
No,
from
well, there you
being
go.
a teen into being an adult. Um, yeah,
Yeah.
it was a
No,
long
I'm not.
relationship.
I'm not saying you've never been in a relationship, and I'm not. I'm certainly not hinting that you
I've
don't
seen
deserve
blokes.
love. But yeah, yeah, you hate Valentine's Day. I think you'd hate Valentine's Day anyway, wouldn't you?
Yeah, I've always hated it.
Yeah. Okay.
My dad calls it
Misery.
Clinton Cards Day. It's just like just you got to go out and like just make a gesture, and I don't like being told what to do. So especially not by card companies or
Mm.
restaurants. I'll finish on this quote from Bess Meyerson, your favourite. Um, to fall in love is awfully simple, but to fall out of love is simply awful.
Yes. Oh, that's nice. Let's leave it there.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
Good show.
All right. Okay. Well, have a wonderful week going forwards, and
You too.
you know, don't finger anybody's daughter.
Okay, you're all right.
Okay,
What's
love
it
you.
going to? Love
Bye.
you, bye.